The SOS signal. The night sky was quiet over Earth, the stars blinking softly above the bustling cities and sleeping countryside. But in the control room of the Global Space Command, chaos erupted. A signal, unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, crackled through the airwaves, filling the massive screens with alien symbols and desperate voices. Scientists and military officers gathered around, their faces pale with both excitement and fear. "It's not from any known species," said Dr. Claire Mason, a linguistics expert. Her voice trembled as she decoded the garbled message. "It's a distress signal. They're calling for help. From us." The room fell silent. For decades, humanity had prepared for the possibility of contact with alien life. They had dreamed of peaceful exchanges, feared invasions, and imagined countless scenarios. But no one had expected this, a plea for aid from advanced civilizations that should have been far more powerful than Earth. "Why us?" Captain James Carter, a veteran space pilot, leaned closer to the screen. His rugged face betrayed his unease. Why would they ask for help from a death world? The term death world wasn't new to the team. It was the label other species had given Earth, an unforgiving planet filled with deadly creatures, natural disasters, and harsh environments. In the galaxy's eyes, humans were survivors of a brutal world, dangerous and unpredictable. They weren't allies. They were a threat. But this message suggested otherwise. Dr. Mason adjusted the transmission, and the voice became clearer. It was deep and resonant, speaking in halting galactic common, the universal language of the stars. "To the humans of Earth, we face extinction. The void maw devours all. Our fleets fall. Our worlds die. Help us, or all is lost." The void maw. The name sent chills through everyone present. There was no need for further explanation. If these alien civilizations, beings who had traversed the stars for millennia, couldn't stop it, what chance did humanity have? General Marcus Steele, the commanding officer, stood at the head of the table. His presence was commanding, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions around him. "We need to make a decision," he said. "Do we respond to this signal, or do we stay silent?" "We don't have the resources to fight something like this," argued one scientist. "If they can't stop it, how can we?" "But if the void maw reaches us, we'll be next," Dr. Mason countered. "Ignoring this might buy us time, but it won't save us." Captain Carter crossed his arms. "And what if it's a trap? They fear us. Maybe this is their way of luring us out, so they can destroy us before we become a bigger threat." The room erupted into debate, voices rising as fear and uncertainty took hold. Some argued for caution, others for action. But through it all, the signal played on, a haunting reminder of the desperate lives depending on their choice. General Steele raised his hand, silencing the room. His eyes were hard, his jaw set. "We've spent years preparing for first contact, hoping to prove that humanity is more than a death world. This is our chance to show the galaxy what we're capable of, not just as survivors, but as allies. I won't sit back and do nothing while billions cry for help." The room quieted. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Slowly, heads began to nod. The decision was made. Within hours, the crew of the Starship Resolve was assembled. It was Earth's most advanced vessel, equipped with cutting-edge technology and designed for long-range missions. The team on board was a mix of the best humanity had to offer: engineers, scientists, soldiers, and diplomats. Each one carried the hope and burden of their entire planet. As the ship prepared for launch, Captain Carter stood on the bridge, watching the SOS signal repeat on the main screen. He still wasn't sure this was the right choice, but he knew it was the only one they could make. "Set course for the origin of the signal," he ordered. "Let's see what we're up against." Dr. Mason joined him, her expression a mix of fear and determination. "Do you think they'll trust us?" she asked. "After everything they've heard about us?" Carter's lips twitched into a grim smile. They'll have to. If we're all they've got, they don't have much of a choice. The countdown began, and the engines roared to life. As Resolve lifted off, piercing the atmosphere and disappearing into the vastness of space, a single thought lingered in the minds of everyone watching from Earth. The galaxy had called for help. Now, humanity would answer. Humanity's bold response. The Resolve surged through the endless void of space, its sleek frame cutting through the darkness like a blade. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but determined. Every crew member knew the stakes. The signal wasn't just a cry for help. It was an invitation into a galaxy that had long kept Earth at arm's length. And for the first time, humanity would show what Deathworlders were truly capable of. Captain James Carter paced the bridge, his boots thudding against the metal floor. His eyes scanned the data feeds streaming across the monitors. "How long until we reach the source of the signal?" he asked. 26 hours, Captain, replied Lieutenant Soren, a young but brilliant navigator. The coordinates place it near a star system on the edge of known space. No signs of settlements in the immediate area. "That's what worries me," Carter muttered under his breath. A distress call from the middle of nowhere wasn't just suspicious. It was a potential trap. Behind him, Dr. Claire Mason adjusted her communication console, trying to clean up the fragments of the message still broadcasting. "There's more here," she said, her voice carrying a mix of excitement and unease. "The Void Maw isn't just destroying planets. It's consuming everything. Stars, debris, even time itself. The signal mentioned something about it adapting to its prey." "Adapting?" Carter frowned. "What does that mean?" "I don't know yet," Mason admitted. "But whatever it is, it's enough to scare civilizations far older and stronger than us." At that moment, a soft chime echoed through the ship. It was the diplomatic quarters. On board the Resolve were 2 alien ambassadors, chosen by their respective governments to monitor humanity's actions. Their species, like most in the galaxy, had long viewed humans with suspicion, labeling them reckless and primitive. Now, they were forced to trust those very traits to save them all. Carter sighed, motioning for Mason to join him. "Let's see what our esteemed guests have to say." The diplomatic lounge was a stark contrast to the rest of the ship. Where the corridors and workspaces were functional and utilitarian, this room was designed for comfort, plush seating, soft lighting, and views of the stars. Sitting across from each other were Ambassador Vrel of the Orion Collective, a lithe creature with shimmering blue skin, and Ambassador Therak of the Kragnath Dominion, a towering reptilian with scales like molten metal. "You humans act with haste," Vrel said, her melodic voice carrying a hint of disdain. "You rush into the unknown without fully understanding the consequences." "We don't have the luxury of time," Carter replied evenly. "Every second we waste, more lives are lost." Therak let out a low guttural growl. "And yet the galaxy has learned to fear your kind. You thrive in chaos, turning destruction into victory. How do we know this isn't another of your schemes to gain power?" Carter clenched his jaw, but held his composure. "If we wanted power, we wouldn't answer a distress call. We'd let the Void Maw wipe you all out and take what's left." The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Carter didn't apologize. Humans had earned their reputation, but they were here to prove they were more than what the galaxy feared. Dr. Mason broke the tension. "Ambassadors, this isn't about politics or grudges. If we fail, it won't matter who we are or what we've done. The Void Maw will destroy us all." Vrel's glowing eyes softened. "And if you succeed, what then? Will humanity demand a seat at the council, claim your place among the stars?" Carter shrugged. "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, all we care about is stopping this thing." For a moment, neither ambassador spoke. Then, surprisingly, Therak leaned forward. "Very well, human. Show us what your death world has made you capable of." Hours later, as the Resolve drew closer to its destination, the crew prepared for the unknown. Engineers triple-checked the weapon systems, ensuring their experimental plasma cannons were ready for anything. Medics stocked supplies, bracing for injuries they couldn't yet imagine. Even the scientists, usually the most composed, wore expressions of quiet dread. Carter stood on the observation deck, staring out at the infinite stars. Mason joined him, holding a datapad. "We're close," she said. "The signal's intensity has increased. Whatever's out there, it's waiting for us." "Good," Carter replied, his voice low. "We're ready." "Are we?" Mason asked, her tone hesitant. "I mean, really ready. This isn't just about surviving. This is about proving to the galaxy that we're more than what they think we are." Carter turned to her, his expression hard but not unkind. "We've survived everything Earth threw at us. Diseases, disasters, wars. The galaxy wants to know what makes us different. It's simple. We don't run from the fight. We face it head-on." Before Mason could respond, the ship's alarm blared. Soren's voice came over the intercom, urgent and strained. "Captain, you need to see this." Carter and Mason raced to the bridge. When they arrived, the main screen showed the source of the SOS, a colossal derelict station orbiting a dying star. Around it, debris floated like a graveyard, the remains of ships torn apart by something massive. But that wasn't the worst part. Emerging from the darkness was a tendril of pure void, blacker than the deepest shadow, twisting and writhing like a living nightmare. It stretched toward the station, slow but inevitable. Mason's voice was barely a whisper. "The Void Maw." Carter's grip tightened on the back of his chair. "Battle stations," he ordered, his voice steady despite the storm brewing in his chest. "Let's show the galaxy what humans are made of." The first encounter with the Void Maw. The resolve drifted into the eerie silence surrounding the derelict station. The dying star cast an orange glow, illuminating the wreckage of countless ships. Broken hulls, shattered weapons, and twisted metal floated aimlessly, a grim testament to the Void Maw's wrath. Captain Carter stood on the bridge, his sharp gaze fixed on the tendril of darkness inching closer to the station. It moved unnaturally, not flowing but shifting, as if it defied the very fabric of space. "What's the status of the station?" Carter asked, his voice cutting through the tense quiet. Lieutenant Soren's fingers danced across the controls. "The station's power is minimal, but there are faint life signs. Fewer than a dozen." Dr. Mason leaned closer to her console, her face pale. "I'm picking up faint energy readings. Something's active on that station. It could be what they used to send the SOS. Or it could be a trap," Carter said grimly. "Ambassadors, any insights?" Ambassador Vrel stood at the edge of the bridge, her luminous eyes scanning the data. "This station predates most of the galaxy's known civilizations. It could belong to the precursors, the architects of much of our technology. If they left anything behind, it would be worth any risk." Ambassador Theric, his molten metal scales glinting in the dim light, growled low in his throat. "Your bravery borders on recklessness, human. That thing is not waiting for you to explore. It will destroy you." Carter turned to Theric, his expression unwavering. "Then we'd better move fast." The away team assembled in the ship's docking bay, a mix of soldiers, scientists, and engineers. They wore adaptive armor designed to withstand the harshest conditions, but even that felt inadequate against the threat looming outside. "Stay sharp," Carter said as he pulled on his helmet. "This isn't just about survival. If we make it back, the galaxy needs to know what we're up against." The team boarded the shuttle, and within moments, they were weaving through the debris field. The wreckage seemed to close in around them, the remnants of ships serving as silent witnesses to the carnage. As they approached the station, the shuttle's lights illuminated the structure's intricate designs, massive arches, glowing alien rooms, and technology far beyond humanity's understanding. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. "We're docking now," the pilot said, her voice steady despite the tension. "Brace yourselves." Inside the station, the air was stale and cold, the faint hum of failing systems the only sound. The team moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Every step echoed, making the empty halls feel alive. Dr. Mason examined the runes on the walls, her gloved fingers brushing against the smooth surface. These markings, they're similar to the ones in the SOS signal. This station might be where the signal originated. As they advanced, a sudden movement in the shadows made everyone freeze. Weapons were raised, the silence now deafening. "Identify yourself," Carter called out, his voice firm. From the darkness, a figure stumbled forward. It was a humanoid alien, its body gaunt and its eyes wide with fear. "You came," it rasped, collapsing to the floor. Mason rushed to the alien's side, scanning it with her medical device. "It's alive, but barely. Severe malnutrition and stress." The alien's trembling hand gripped Mason's wrist. "The void. It learns. It hungers. You cannot fight it." Before Mason could respond, the station shuddered violently. The team braced themselves as an unearthly roar echoed through the corridors. Not a sound, but a feeling, a deep vibration that resonated in their bones. Outside the station, the Void Maw's tendril had reached the outer hull. It pressed against the structure, and where it touched, the metal corroded instantly, turning to ash. Carter's voice was sharp. "We need to move. Find the source of the SOS and get out of here." The team pushed deeper into the station, guided by Mason's scanner. They reached a massive chamber where a glowing sphere hovered in the center, pulsing with energy. The walls were lined with ancient machinery, much of it sparking and broken. "This must be it," Mason said, her eyes wide. "The core of the station. It's still transmitting the signal." As she worked to stabilize the core, the station shook again, more violently this time. The Void Maw was breaking through. Tendrils of blackness began seeping into the chamber, twisting and writhing like living nightmares. "Defensive positions," Carter shouted. The soldiers formed a perimeter, their weapons aimed at the encroaching darkness. The first tendril lashed out, striking one of the soldiers' shields. The impact sent a shockwave through the room, and the shield began to disintegrate. "It's adapting," Mason yelled. "Our weapons won't hold it off for long." Carter made a snap decision. "Mason, get that core ready to move. We're taking it with us." "Are you insane?" Vrel's voice crackled over the comms. "That technology is too volatile. Moving it could destroy us all." "If we leave it, no one survives anyway," Carter shot back. "Get the shuttle ready for extraction." The soldiers fired their weapons, their plasma rounds barely slowing the Void Maw's tendrils. One soldier was grabbed, his screams cutting off as he was pulled into the darkness. Mason worked frantically, her hands flying over the alien controls. Almost there. The Void Maw's roar intensified, the sound reverberating through the chamber. Tendrils closed in, and the team was forced to retreat to the shuttle bay. Finally, the core disengaged with a hiss and a flash of light. Mason and the engineers loaded it onto a hover platform, and the team sprinted back to the shuttle, the Void Maw close behind. As the shuttle launched, the station collapsed, swallowed entirely by the Void Maw. The crew of the Resolve watched in stunned silence as the massive entity turned its attention toward them. "We're not out of this yet," Carter said, his voice calm but firm. "Mason, figure out what that core can do. We're going to need it." And with that, the Resolve surged into the void. Humanity's first encounter with the Void Maw, leaving them with more questions than answers, and the knowledge that this was only the beginning. Secrets of the ancient beacon. The Resolve sped through the void, its engines burning bright as the Void Maw loomed in the distance, its tendrils retreating momentarily, but never far behind. Inside the ship, the tension was palpable. The alien core hummed with unstable energy in the engineering bay, drawing every curious glance and anxious whisper. Captain Carter stood in the war room, a holographic map of the derelict station flickering before him. "That thing wasn't just a distress signal," he said, pointing at the glowing core in the corner of the room. "It's a weapon, or at least part of one." Ambassador Vrel leaned against the wall, her blue skin shimmering faintly under the soft lights. "A weapon left by the precursors," she corrected. "If the myths are true, their creations are as dangerous as the threats they were designed to stop." "It doesn't matter who built it," Carter replied sharply. "What matters is whether it can stop the Void Maw." Dr. Claire Mason was bent over a console, her brow furrowed in concentration. "This thing is ancient," she muttered. "The technology is far beyond anything we've seen. It's not just a weapon. It's an interface. It's trying to communicate." Therak, the hulking Kragnath ambassador, let out a low growl. "Communicate with what?" "The precursors are gone." Mason turned to him, her eyes wide with realization. "No, not all of them." The ship's main deck became a hive of activity as Mason worked to decode the signals emanating from the core. Strange symbols flashed across the monitors, and a low, rhythmic pulse filled the air, a language neither human nor alien, but something far older. "This isn't just a distress beacon," Mason explained to the assembled crew. "It's a map. The signal isn't random. It's guiding us to a specific location." Lieutenant Soren leaned forward, studying the map. "That location is in the dead zone. No ships go there. It's a graveyard." "That's probably why the precursors hid it there," Mason replied. "If there's anything left of their civilization, it would be in a place no one dares to explore." Ambassador Vrel's voice was quiet but firm. "If this Void Maw is truly what we fear, then the precursors' weapons are our only hope. But entering the dead zone, it's suicide." Carter straightened, his eyes locked on the map. "We've already stepped into the unknown. If this map gives us a chance to stop that thing, then we take it." The journey to the dead zone was fraught with unease. The crew whispered of ghost ships and unexplainable phenomena said to haunt the area. As they approached, the stars seemed to dim, and the ship's sensors struggled to function. The darkness outside felt alive, pressing against the hull like an unseen predator. "We're entering the dead zone," Soren reported. "Energy readings are unstable, but there's something massive ahead." The resolve broke through the blackness to find an enormous structure floating in the void. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, an impossibly vast construct of metal and crystal, glowing faintly with an inner light. The core in the engineering bay pulsed in sync with the structure, as if recognizing its long-lost home. "This is it," Mason whispered. "The precursor beacon." The Resolve docked with the structure, its crew venturing cautiously into its depths. Inside, the architecture was breathtaking. Towering pillars of light, intricate carvings that seemed to shift and move, and an air of ancient purpose. As the team moved deeper, the core began to glow brighter, guiding them to a central chamber. There, a massive obelisk rose from the floor, covered in glowing runes. The air hummed with energy. Mason approached the obelisk, her scanner struggling to keep up. "This isn't just a weapon. It's a repository, a database of everything the precursors knew about the Void Maw." She placed the core into a slot at the base of the obelisk, and the room erupted in light. Holograms of star systems, alien species, and ancient battles filled the space, playing out like a vivid memory. One image froze the team in their tracks. The Void Maw. It was larger, more menacing than they had imagined, its tendrils stretching across entire galaxies. A voice, deep, resonant, and ancient, spoke in their minds. "We are the precursors. You have found our final bastion." The Void Maw was born of our arrogance, a creation meant to harness the power of the void itself. It was meant to be controlled, but it turned on us. It devours all. The voice paused, as if considering them. "You are Deathworlders. Your resilience is your strength, but strength alone will not save you. Activate the weapon, and you may stop the Maw. But beware, the cost may be greater than you can bear." The hologram shifted to show the weapon in action, a cascade of light obliterating everything in its path, including entire star systems. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Mason's voice was barely audible. "It's not just a weapon. It's a reset. It will destroy the Void Maw and anything in its reach." Carter stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "Can it be contained?" A smaller blast. The hologram responded as if it could hear him. "Uncertain. Your technology may amplify or diminish the effect. The choice is yours." As the team prepared to leave with the weapon's blueprints, the Void Maw stirred outside the structure. Tendrils of darkness slithered toward the beacon, testing its defenses. The ship's alarms blared. "It's found us," Soren called over the comms. "We need to leave now." Carter's voice cut through the chaos. "Get to the ship. We've got what we came for." As they fled, the Void Maw attacked, its tendrils lashing against the ancient structure. Lights flickered, and the walls began to crack. The Resolve blasted free just as the beacon's defenses activated, holding the Void Maw at bay. For now. Back on board, Carter stood in the war room, staring at the glowing core. "We've got the weapon," he said, "but now we have a choice. Use it and risk everything, or find another way." The room was silent as the crew absorbed the gravity of their situation. The galaxy's fate rested in their hands, and there was no turning back. Trust and betrayal. The Resolve surged away from the beacon, its engines straining to put distance between the ship and the Void Maw. But the crew knew it was only a matter of time before the relentless entity pursued them again. Inside the war room, tension simmered as Captain Carter addressed the senior crew and their alien ambassadors. "We have the plans for the weapon," Carter began, his tone commanding. "But activating it will come at a cost, one we need to weigh carefully. I won't make this decision alone." Ambassador Vrel spoke first, her voice measured but laced with unease. "The galaxy has already paid dearly for underestimating the Void Maw. If this weapon is our only chance, we must use it, no matter the price." Ambassador Therak growled low in his throat, his molten scales shimmering ominously. Spoken like a diplomat who has never seen a star system turn to ash. "You humans play with fire, but this is annihilation. If the weapon destroys our people along with the Maw, what victory is that?" Carter sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "It's not just about the weapon. We need to find a way to deliver it without wiping out innocent lives. The Void Maw adapts. If we fail, there won't be a second chance." The room fell silent, the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone. But amid the uneasy calm, no one noticed the subtle glances exchanged between Therak and a Kragneth engineer standing at the back of the room. Hours later, in the engineering bay, Dr. Claire Mason worked tirelessly with her team to analyze the weapon's blueprints. The ancient precursor technology was unlike anything they had ever seen, vastly complex yet eerily intuitive. As she adjusted the power core, she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Her suspicions were confirmed when she noticed a Kragneth engineer lingering near the console, his claws hovering over the controls. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp. The engineer froze for a moment before turning to her, his eyes narrowing. "Just inspecting the systems, ensuring your modifications are acceptable." Mason frowned. "We've got it under control. You're not assigned to this station." The engineer didn't respond. Instead, he suddenly lunged, slamming his fist into the console and triggering an overload. Sparks flew as Mason hit the emergency shoot-off, narrowly preventing a catastrophic explosion. "What the hell are you doing?" she shouted, grabbing her comm device. "Security, report to engineering now." Before the guards arrived, the engineer snarled and bolted, disappearing into the ship's labyrinthine corridors. Mason's heart raced as she realized the implications. It's sabotage. In the war room, Carter's face darkened as Mason explained the incident. Ambassador Therak stood nearby, his imposing frame radiating tension. "Do you know what this means?" Carter asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Someone on this ship doesn't want us to succeed." Therak crossed his arms, his molten metal scales rippling with agitation. "Do not look at me, human. I warned you about the dangers of this weapon. If someone acted to stop you, perhaps they were protecting the galaxy from your recklessness." Carter stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "Protecting the galaxy, or protecting their own interests, if this is your doing." "Enough," Vrel interjected, her melodic voice cutting through the tension. "Accusations won't save us. We need answers." Mason nodded. The engineer was Kragnath, but that doesn't mean Theric ordered this. We need to find out who else might be working against us, and fast. The Resolve's security team launched an immediate investigation, combing through surveillance footage and crew records. What they uncovered was chilling. The Kragnath engineer wasn't acting alone. He had received encrypted instructions from a hidden transmitter aboard the ship. As the team traced the signal, Carter gathered his senior officers. "This isn't just sabotage. Someone on this ship is feeding our position to the Void Maw." The realization hit like a thunderclap. The Void Maw had been tracking them too precisely. It wasn't just adapting, it was being guided. In the dead of night, Mason and Soren worked tirelessly to isolate the transmitter. They finally pinpointed its location deep within the ship's maintenance deck. Carter led a small team to investigate, his pulse pounding as they approached the concealed device. What they found shocked them. The transmitter was surrounded by Kragnath markings, but its design was distinctly alien, too advanced for even the Kragnath Dominion. As Carter examined the device, Ambassador Theric arrived, flanked by 2 guards. "This is not Kragnath technology," Theric growled, his molten eyes narrowing. "But someone has used it to frame us." Before Carter could respond, the ship's alarms blared. The Void Maw had found them again. Its tendrils lashed at the Resolve, shaking the ship violently. "We're out of time," Carter said, his voice grim. "Get that transmitter offline and prepare for battle." As the crew scrambled to evade the Void Maw's relentless assault, the tension among the ambassadors reached a breaking point. Vrel and Theric accused each other of betrayal, their voices echoing through the corridors. Carter finally snapped. "Enough. You want to fight each other, fine. But if we don't stop that thing, there won't be anything left to fight over." The ship shuddered again, and Mason's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, I've got the transmitter offline, but the Void Maw is adapting faster than we expected. If we don't deploy the weapon soon, it's over." Carter stared out the viewport, the Void Maw's monstrous tendrils closing in. Trust had been broken, alliances shattered, but there was no room for hesitation. "Get the weapon ready," he ordered, "and find me whoever's responsible for this sabotage. If they want to play games with the Void Maw, we'll make sure they pay the price." As the crew braced for their final stand, the fragile alliances aboard the Resolve hung by a thread, and the galaxy's fate teetered on the edge of destruction. The final stand. The Void Maw loomed closer, its tendrils of blackness twisting like living nightmares, each movement tearing at the fabric of space. On the bridge of the Resolve, Captain Carter stood like a pillar of steel amidst the chaos. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the crew moved with desperate precision. "Status on the weapon," Carter demanded, his voice steady despite the mounting tension. Dr. Mason's voice crackled over the comms. "We've integrated the core with our systems. The weapon is charging, but we're looking at a 20-minute window before it's operational." "We don't have 20 minutes, Lieutenant Soren called from the navigation console. "The Void Maw is closing in. Distance is less than 30,000 kilometers." "Then we buy Mason those 20 minutes, Carter said firmly. He turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare the ship's plasma cannons and deploy the decoy drones. Keep it distracted." The Resolve surged into action. Drones fired from the ship, zipping toward the Void Maw in erratic patterns. Each one emitted bright flashes and bursts of energy, designed to mimic the ship's signal. For a moment, the Maw hesitated, its tendrils pausing as if evaluating this new threat. The respite was brief. The Void Maw lashed out, obliterating the decoys in seconds. Its focus returned to the Resolve, the massive entity closing in like a predator savoring its prey. On the engineering deck, Mason worked with her team to stabilize the weapon. The precursor technology pulsed with energy, the alien symbols glowing brighter as the system activated. This thing wasn't designed for human hands, Mason muttered. It's like trying to defuse a bomb while it's being built. Ambassador Vril stood nearby, her luminous blue skin glowing faintly in the flickering light. You humans thrive on chaos, she said. If anyone can make this work, it's you. Mason glanced at her, not exactly comforting, but I'll take it. Back on the bridge, Carter monitored the Void Maw's movements. Tactical, fire plasma cannons on my mark. The officer nodded, fingers hovering over the controls. Cannons locked and ready, sir. Fire. Twin beams of searing energy shot from the Resolve, slamming into the Void Maw's advancing tendrils. The creature recoiled, a guttural roar vibrating through the ship. For a brief moment, hope flickered. It's working, Soren shouted. We're slowing it down. But the victory was short-lived. The Void Maw's tendrils darkened, absorbing the plasma energy. Within seconds, it adapted, its form growing larger, more menacing. Carter's fists clenched. It's learning faster than we can counter it. We need that weapon online. In engineering, Mason's team reached the final stage of activation. The weapon's core began to spin, a cascade of light and energy filling the room. A holographic interface appeared, displaying a countdown timer, 10 minutes remaining. But as the weapon powered up, the ship's systems began to strain. Lights flickered, and the engines groaned under the load. We're overloading the power grid, an engineer shouted. We'll lose propulsion if we keep this up. Mason cursed under her breath. Reroute non-essential systems. Keep the engines running at all costs. Suddenly, a shrill alarm blared, and Mason's console displayed an urgent warning. Oh no. What is it? Vril asked, her voice tense. The Void Maw isn't just attacking us. It's infiltrating our systems, Mason replied. It's trying to shut us down from the inside. Carter's voice came over the comms. Mason, what's happening down there? It's the Void Maw, Mason said, her hands flying across the controls. It's adapting faster than we thought. If it gets control of our systems, we're done. Can you stop it? Carter asked. I'm trying, Mason replied. But if I can't? She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what it meant. On the bridge, Carter made a decision. Soren, take us into the debris field. Soren's eyes widened. Sir, that's suicide. The wreckage will tear us apart. Not if we play it right, Carter said. The debris field will slow the Void Maw down. Give us more time. The Resolve banked hard, plunging into the field of twisted metal and shattered chips. The crew held their breath as the ship weaved through the wreckage, its shields flaring against stray impacts. The Void Maw followed, its tendrils smashing through the debris with terrifying ease. But the smaller fragments slowed its movements, buying the Resolve precious seconds. In engineering, the countdown hit 5 minutes. Mason wiped sweat from her brow, her fingers moving faster than ever. Almost there. Suddenly, the sabotage became apparent. The Kragnath engineers' earlier tampering had left hidden subroutines in the system, threatening to destabilize the weapon's power core. Ambassador Theric stepped forward. Let me help, he said. Mason hesitated. Why should I trust you? Because if I wanted you dead, I wouldn't be standing here, Theric growled. I know Kragnath systems. I can undo the damage. Reluctantly, Mason nodded. Fine. But if you try anything... I know, Theric interrupted. Just keep the weapon stable. With seconds to spare, the weapon reached full power. Mason's voice came over the comms. Captain, the weapon is online. We're ready to fire. Carter's gaze locked onto the Void Maw, now mere kilometers away. Tactical, target the core of that thing. Mason, how much of a blast radius are we looking at? Enough to take out the Void Maw. And us, if we're not clear in time, Mason replied. Understood, Carter said. Soren, prepare for emergency evacuation. Everyone, brace yourselves. The weapon charge, a blinding sphere of energy building at the ship's stern. As the countdown reached 0, the Resolve unleashed the full fury of the precursor weapon. The Void Maw writhed and roared as the blast struck its core. The energy cascaded outward, tearing through its tendrils and vaporizing the surrounding debris. The creature began to collapse, its form disintegrating into nothingness. But the shockwave was immense, rushing toward the Resolve like a tidal wave. "Soren, now!" Carter shouted. The ship's engines roared to life, propelling the Resolve out of the blast zone. The crew held their breath as the ship skimmed the edge of the explosion, narrowly escaping the destructive force. When the light faded, the Void Maw was gone, and silence filled the void. On the bridge, Carter slumped into his chair, exhaustion etched on his face. "Status." Mason's voice came over the comms, shaky but triumphant. "Weapon discharged successfully. The Void Maw, it's gone." A cheer erupted among the crew, relief washing over them like a wave. But as Carter stared out at the now empty void, he couldn't shake the feeling that their battle had only just begun. Somewhere, in the dark corners of the galaxy, other dangers lurked, and humanity would have to face them together. A new alliance. The Resolve floated silently in space, its hull scared but intact. The Void Maw was gone, its monstrous form obliterated by the precursor weapon. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was a mix of relief and exhaustion. The crew, battered and bruised, gathered on the bridge to hear Captain Carter's next words. Carter stood at the central console, his gaze sweeping over his people, and the two alien ambassadors who had seen humanity at both its best and worst. "We've done what the galaxy thought was impossible," he said, his voice steady. "But this isn't just about us. What happened here today will echo across every star system. The question now is, what comes next?" Dr. Mason, still covered in soot and grease from the weapon's final activation, stepped forward. "We have the precursor data stored in the core," she said. "It's not just about the Void Maw. There's information on other ancient threats, things the galaxy has forgotten." Lieutenant Soren added, "And the technology we used wasn't destroyed in the blast. It's damaged, but it can be rebuilt." Ambassador Vrel, her glowing eyes fixed on Carter, spoke with a newfound respect. "You've proven something today, Captain. Humanity is not the reckless, dangerous species we once believed. You are necessary." Ambassador Therak let out a low growl, but it lacked his usual hostility. "You are Deathworlders, resilient, resourceful, and infuriating. But perhaps that is what the galaxy needs." Carter's jaw tightened. He had spent his career fighting to show the galaxy that humanity was more than its brutal reputation. Now, with the Void Maw gone, they had earned a place at the table, but it came with a price. The ship docked at a nearby neutral station, where representatives from major galactic factions awaited news of the mission. The station buzzed with activity as news of the Void Maw's destruction spread like wildfire. As Carter, Mason, and the ambassadors entered the Central Council chamber, they were met with a mix of awe and suspicion. The room was filled with alien leaders, some familiar, others entirely alien in form, their faces unreadable but their postures tense. The High Speaker, an ancient being with a crystalline form that shimmered like starlight, addressed them. "Captain Carter of Earth, we have received your transmission. Is it true? The Void Maw is no more." Carter nodded. "It's gone. The precursor weapon worked. But we need to talk about what we found, because the Void Maw wasn't the only threat out there." The chamber erupted in murmurs. The galaxy's most powerful leaders were not used to being told there were greater dangers lurking. Vrel stepped forward, her voice calm but commanding. "I was there. The precursors left warnings of other cosmic threats. Humanity's role in this battle proves they are not just survivors, they are protectors." Therak growled but nodded reluctantly. "They are also unpredictable. That is their strength, but it is also their danger. If we welcome them into the council, we must do so with caution. The High Speaker's crystalline form shimmered as it considered the ambassador's words. Humanity has long been feared for its origins. Earth, the Death World, bred a species unlike any other. A species that thrives where others would perish. Today, that strength has saved countless lives. The speaker turned its gaze to Carter. Humanity, you now stand on the threshold of galactic unity. Will you join us as allies, with the understanding that your power is a double-edged blade? Carter stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with resolve. We didn't come here to conquer. We came here to survive. If the galaxy is willing to work with us, we'll do the same. But make no mistake, if threats like the Void Maw resurface, humanity won't wait for permission to act. The chamber fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the council. Slowly, one by one, the alien leaders nodded in agreement. Back on the Resolve, the crew celebrated quietly, their victory tempered by the knowledge of the challenges ahead. Mason sat with Soren in the observation lounge, watching the stars drift by. Do you think they'll really trust us? Soren asked, his voice soft. Mason smiled faintly. Trust is earned. We've taken the first step, but it's going to take a lot more to change how they see us. And if we can't? Soren asked. Mason's gaze hardened. Then we keep doing what we've always done. We survive. Carter stood alone on the bridge, staring out at the void. The precursor core pulsed softly on a nearby console, a reminder of the secrets it held. Humanity had stepped into a larger galaxy, one filled with wonders and dangers they couldn't yet comprehend. As the stars glittered before him, Carter clenched his fists. The galaxy had called for help, and humanity had answered. Now, they were no longer just Deathworlders. They were protectors, allies, and perhaps one day, leaders. Set a course for Earth, Carter ordered. Let's show them what we've brought back. The Resolve turned toward the distant blue planet, its engines igniting with purpose. Humanity's place among the stars was no longer a question. It was a promise.